Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining here at UnapologeticlyProgressive. Once again, I'm back with another video. This time we're going to talk about tariffs. We're going to talk about how businesses are faring, how the consumers are faring, and actually how much revenue is actually being raised by these tariffs, and is it actually worth the cost? Now, we all know that tariffs are a terrible idea. They are simply a tax on the American business that imports goods from other countries. China is not paying the tariffs as much as Donald Trump wants to tell you they are. They're not. That's not how tariffs work. It is a tax on the American importer, not China. That's how tariffs work, right? They don't make a whole lot of money for your overall budget. They just don't. But let's get into it, right? Now, let's start with inflation. When Trump took office, inflation was still, for January, came in at roughly 3%. By March, inflation had dropped to 2.3%. Then Trump's tariffs took effect. And now we have steadily seen inflation increase to 2.7%, just a stone's throw away from where it was at 3% when Joe Biden left office. So now that we have that all out of the way, how much revenue are these tariffs making? Now, for this year, we are sitting at roughly $28 billion in revenue since February from these tariffs. So if you take that out to the full year, you're looking at roughly, 60 billion, maybe as high as 70 something billion, depending on what the numbers were for January, right? January and February will be very important to see what those numbers are. But based on what we have, we're looking at roughly $56 to $60 billion raised. Put that in perspective, last year, we raised $77 billion off of tariffs for the year, for 2024, and it was roughly 1.6% of our total federal revenue. That just puts it in perspective, doesn't it? How little this amount is. Now you have people out there talking about, oh, we're going to start giving these refund checks from these tariffs. Well, I did the math. If you take out just the numbers we have, 28 billion, take that out to the rest of the year, you're looking at roughly 56 billion. I did a calculation, you get roughly $164 for each American. Does that make up for the price you're paying at the grocery store? Does $164 make you whole? Does $164 do anything for your overall budget? For most families, $164, that would just be like half of their grocery bill for the month right now. I remember a day and time where I could feed my family, my wife and myself, on $70 a month. We are now looking at almost $200 to $300 a month to feed two people. Right, and that's been going on, getting worse and worse ever since the end of the COVID lockdowns and stuff. And now we have something exacerbating the issue. We got these new tariffs. Now, if we're sitting at a 2.7% inflation rate, that might be great for the bottom line of some companies, right? Because they get to raise prices over and over again for no reason. But it's not good for the American consumer. It's not good for most businesses either. We already see the consumers pinching their pennies. We already see consumers, not buying big ticket items anymore because they can't afford them. Now, a lot of businesses, as of right now, have been eating the tariffs. GM, for example, said it cost them almost $5 billion just since they started. And they're just eating it. because they made an agreement with the Trump administration to do so. Walmart, on the other hand, they're increasing prices. I see it every single time I go to the grocery store. Some things are even more expensive every single time I go and look for groceries. Every single time. Now people are going to say, "Oh, grocery prices have come down." No, they haven't. Right? Eggs have come down. That's great. But chicken, beef, things like that have skyrocketed. It's not helping the American consumer. And I don't believe $164, even if these rebate checks were actually a real thing, would actually help anybody. Sure, everybody wants a little extra money. That's great. But the Trump administration also wants to convince you that this is going to help you bring down your tax bill. The Congressional Budget Office has already made it very clear that because of the big beautiful bill, it basically negates the entirety, right? The tax cuts in the big beautiful bill negate any kind of revenue that we're earning from these tariffs. So at the end of the day, they're really a net negative overall for the country. You're seeing your prices go up, right? Businesses are seeing their prices go up. This is making some businesses have to close their doors because they can't afford to operate anymore. And for what? Because we don't have the infrastructure to build some of the things that we would need. Make it make sense. So, to those of you out there that think these tariffs are a great idea, let me know in the comments how they're supposed to be a great idea. How are they actually helpful? Right? Because Donald Trump made these cuts and all these tax cuts and stuff for billionaires in the big beautiful bill. Right? And he said this would help pay for it. But at the end of the day, because of the tax cuts, these 50 to 60, maybe even $70 billion in revenue is negated. So it's absolutely pointless. Now, I've been saying this since they started, since before he took office, making it very clear how detrimental these are going to be to people. And nobody believed me. I had comments in the comment section telling me I was crazy. Now look at us. We as a country apparently elected Donald Trump to bring down grocery prices, to bring down prices across the board. He hasn't done that. It's almost as if presidents don't directly control it. Now, the only thing that you can do to really affect cost is to add tariffs on things as president. That's one of the few things you can do that will actually directly affect the pocketbooks of your people. So, how are businesses faring? Not great. I've read several of them have closed down. Just since they were some of these tariffs were announced, local restaurants have shut down where I live. Some of them because of COVID, some of them simply because the tariffs were one more hit after COVID that they couldn't take. Big chains are talking about shutting down stores. Walmart's having to raise prices, which is hurting its consumers. And at the end of the day, it lowers foot traffic. So I would say that the American consumer isn't faring that great right now. I wouldn't say the American business is faring very well either, because a lot of them are closing down over these tariffs. Farmers are having problems. Saw a video a while back of a farmer who was talking to the local news, saying they needed certain items for irrigation and stuff like that. And when they called their supplier, the supplier's like, sorry, first off, we're going to be delayed roughly 6 months to getting you these products. And when we do get them to you, they're going to cost 3 times more than they did before. So, in what world are these tariffs a good idea? In what world are they actually helping the American consumer and the American taxpayer? They're not. Because at the end of the day, they're not bringing in nearly enough revenue to pay for the things that Donald Trump wants to pay for, such as tax cuts, causing our deficit and our debt to skyrocket even further than it already is. Remember, in 4 years in his first term, Donald Trump added roughly $8 trillion to our national debt. And that was before COVID. Now, every president has added to the deficit and to the debt. It happens. It's happened over and over again. And yes, there are some cuts that could be made. But if we quit cutting taxes, maybe our deficit wouldn't be as high as it is. And therefore, our debt wouldn't be as high as it is. But the fact is, these taxes, the tariffs, these taxes hurt more people than just taxing a corporation and a billionaire. Because these taxes hurt the rich businesses and the poor businesses. It hurts the mom and pop shops. And for what? But anyhow, that's what we got going for you today. Anyhow, have a good day. See you down the road.